I wanted to talk a little bit about Christmas, oddly enough, but I want to go a little bit further in time where Jesus is about in his 30s, and he's walking down the street. Now, people have been flocking to Jesus. His reputation has been getting it's really growing at this point in time in his ministry. People are hearing that he does these amazing things. He's like curing people, and he speaks with like this authority. Everyone talks about how he speaks with authority. That's something that people did not do at the time. And people are getting word about him, and people are coming in flocks to go see him. By the time that he enters a town, people have already heard about him, and they're there to listen. Some of them are there to listen. Some are there to kind of catch him up. They want to criticize him a little bit. Some are there just out of curiosity, and some are there because they hear about these miracles that he performs and all this stuff. And his disciples, the doofuses, as I like to call them, because the disciples were kind of like us, you know? We're doofuses sometimes. We really are. We make mistakes sometimes. And he's coming into this town, and along with the crowd, the disciples start to think that they are now the crowd kind of organizers, you know, and trying to keep people at bay and all this kind of stuff. But what happens is that parents are starting to bring their infant kids in to Jesus, and the little ones. And the disciples are thinking, okay, we can't do that because kids are, you know, they're loud, they talk, you know, all this stuff. Jesus has a sermon to give and all this kind of stuff, and you're bringing them in. And this is where I think Jesus just kind of grabs a chair like this. Jesus was great at just like stopped everything. You know, in chaos, sometimes you just have to stop. And he said, no. Let the children come to me. To me, that's one of the greatest lines in the Bible. Let the children come to me. That's an exact quote there. Well, I don't know if it's exact. It's exact from the Bible. Book of Luke, I think. And he welcomes the kids. And the disciples are like, you know, they're standing there like, now we got to do this. This is going to take like 10 minutes. You know, because they're wanting to get on and get moving and all this stuff. They're trying to be like these organizers. And Jesus is in charge, and he just stops. And he says, let the children come to me. What did he say? Jesus is in charge. He should just be preaching this. He said, unless you are childlike, you won't know the kingdom of heaven. Isn't that interesting? Because this is a time where children were, this is way even before they should be seen and not heard kind of thing. Some kids were thrown into slave labor. Some kids died in infancy. They died of poor nutrition and poor health. But some of them were very much loved, but some of them were not. It was a hard time for kids. It was a hard time for adults. And Jesus is telling them that unless you are like one of these little ones, you're not going to know what the kingdom of heaven is like. You're not going to really experience it. You're not going to see it. A lot of times we think that Jesus is saying like, you know, you're in, you're out, and all this kind of stuff. What he's trying to tell us is unless you are childlike, you're not going to know the benefits. You're not going to see it. Do you remember, I'm talking to the adults here, do you remember when you were kids? Some of you, that was a long time ago, I understand, but do you remember Christmas when you were kids? What was the best present that you remember getting as a kid? Barbie Townhouse. I would not expect that from you. It's interesting. I would have thought Tonka truck, but that's pretty good, though. You don't have to raise your hand here. This is neighbors, for crying out loud. A stereo. Oh, cool. Yeah. G.I. Joe. Which one? With the one with the beard or the... Oh, yeah, and the scar? Yeah, I loved the G.I. Joe. Did you get the accessories with it? You had the which one? You had the camper? I wanted the camper. I did. I got the we'll get back to the sermon here in a second. I got the scuba thing, but it was missing a flipper. I got it at a garage sale. What's G.I. Joe supposed to do with one flipper? It's the worst thing in the world. I just pictured him going around in circles. There's crisis, but he's just going around in circles. What else? What else you got? You didn't get the house, but you got the Barbie doll. If you guys were friends, you guys would have that would have been great. What about you, Seth? What's HotWheels? Did you get the orange track that you went with them? With the loop? Which one? Candy canes. Well, yeah, I guess that's a toy for a while until you eat it. But anything else? Train set. Like the kind that the electric train set? Yeah. And every once in a while it would go off track, right? Yeah. Yeah, and then you need G.I. Joe to come in and save the day for you like that. Yeah. Barbie, she's just sitting in her townhouse, just waiting, doing nothing. Listen to the stereo, just doing nothing. This was actually, you want to know what my favorite toy was? My favorite toy? That was my favorite toy. What? Don't heckle me. I guess I did heckle you a little bit, but that is Mortimer Snerd. And he was a ventriloquist puppet. Some of you might be old enough to remember a guy named Edgar Bergen. He was a famous ventriloquist. Awful ventriloquist. I mean, he was like, "How you doing, Charlie?" "Fine, how are you?" Just his lips wouldn't stop moving. But he had he had Charlie McCarthy, and then he had Mortimer Snerd. And I used to play with Mortimer Snerd. He was kind of like this country bumpkin kind of guy. And I remember getting this puppet in the box. First off, I even remember going to the toy store and looking at the puppet and saying that that's what I wanted. And I even remember opening the box. I can even remember to this day what Mortimer Snerd smelled like. Not like, he didn't smell the way he looked. He smelled like that new toy thing, And he was kind of this silly, goofy guy. And so to help me with my sarcasm, I also got a W.C. Fields ventriloquist. So that helped me create the persona that I have probably a little bit more of now. When you're a kid, the things that you get, these memories, these toys and stuff, all of the things that we're mentioning, it took imagination. It took a little bit of a team effort. It was you and the toy. Sometimes you played with other people, but sometimes you played by yourself. I remember sitting in my room with my puppets and creating stories and creating personalities and things like that. And it took a childlike way to imagine things. And imagine things like hope. Imagine things like laughter. Imagine things like peace and joy. I even, in my 20s, this is embarrassing, but I even became a puppeteer for a short time. That's me thin, right there. This has not been altered. This has been altered. But that has not. I'm going to go away from that now. So there's something about children. And Christmas is a time where we go back to our childhood a little bit. We think about things growing up. We think about the train set. We think about the moments that we had as families. Moments when we still had humility and innocence. Sometimes when we start out as children, we find ourselves during our lifetime leaving the childhood days behind, and we go into what people refer to as the real world. And those times of innocence and imagination and optimism fall prey to things like cynicism and things we see on the news and distrust and argumentativeness. As children, oftentimes we love everybody, I mean, if you guys were kids together, the Barbie house and the Barbie, that'd be it. You'd be best friends. It would just be that, But now it'd be like you throw in things like distrust into the mix, or paranoia, or things like anxiety. As kids, we also did a lot of saying what we feel. If you see like a little child, if that little child is feeling sad, you're going to know that that child is sad. If that child is feeling happy, you're going to know that that child is happy. If it's restless, you're going to know it. But for some reason, when we leave that childhood behind, we also start to leave the expression of how we feel behind. We start to get into this world where we think that we have to be a certain way. And that innocence and that expression and that openness of our thoughts and our feelings suddenly becomes a little bit more distant. We start to create barriers between each other. We start to create a little bit more, you've got to earn my friendship. And you've got to chip away sometimes to really know what I'm feeling. Because I'm not going to tell you. Because I'm an adult now. And I have to act a certain way. Some of us, we try to put on this persona of being strong or powerful. We try to put measurement on it, whether we have status in the world or whether we try to act a little bit macho, we try to act strong, anybody that disagrees with us, we start to make enemies. But when you're a little child, you don't even really know what an enemy is. Some of that stuff's learned behavior. You ever seen a little child and you just throw in another child and suddenly they're just playing together? I think of all the people that I went to grade school with, and we just played together because we were in the same class. We were in kindergarten, we were the morning group, And we played together. We sat together. We were supposed to sit, cross-legged. I can't sit cross-legged. There's something about my legs that, why are you laughing? I took your side with G.I. Joe, and you're... Imagine me sitting cross-legged. And we would play together. Those same people that we played together, now as adults, we have different viewpoints and we're on political different sides and all this kind of stuff, and we've learned things like cynicism, and we've got beer guts and we belch and we just, our life is just this now. But there was something that Jesus was saying 2,000 years ago when he said, unless you're childlike, you're not going to experience the joy, the happiness of what heaven truly is. You see, I believe that this is just my thought, okay? But I believe that when we go to heaven, the first thing we lose is our adultness, where we question things and we doubt and we are pessimistic and we're negative and we're all of this kind of stuff. But we get back to the childhood, child of God, and we get to remember what it was like opening that first gift. Except the gift this time is God. And just like that first gift, we embrace it. And we spend time with it. And then we share it. We share it with other children of God, regardless of what side of the political spectrum or race or income or anything like that. Kids don't care about that stuff. Kids just care about sharing and playing and having fun. I see Bo over there. Bo's going to tell you what he feels every time, loudly. We could all learn from the children that come into Neighbors, because they teach us to be who we are called to be. We're not called to be cynical. We're not called to be distrusting. We're not called to be prejudiced. We are called to love God, to love ourselves, and to love our neighbors. Kids understand the simplicity of that. I really pray that we do too. I pray that what we understand is the word Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. One of the first things you do as an infant is you look for the people that care for you. We can still do that today because we're still children at heart. And sometimes we do need to look around and see who's caring for us. Never forget, we're children of God. We are children of God. All of us. That makes us connected. That makes us part of a family. This right here, this world, one big playground. The question is, are we going to share our toys? Or are we going to spend the time building walls? I pray that this Christmas, every one of us remembers what it's like to be a child. Because God's saying, let the children come to me.